Welcome to the Challenging the Way We Age podcast, hosted by the Mavericks of Senior Living, Francis and Catherine, focusing on creativity, ingenuity, and inspiration to educate and inspire changes in the senior experience, breaking the status quo. We want to thank our supporters, Assured Assisted Living, Serenity App, Sevens Home Care, and Sevens Residential Memory Care. Now get ready for the next episode.
Hey, all you Mavericks. Welcome to our podcast. We are here with Jack Smith, President and CEO of Initial IT. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. So we are at the Colorado Assisted Living Association Conference, and Jack just came off stage speaking about cybersecurity. This is a topic that we don't talk much about in the senior care world, and it's a very, very important one. Mm-hmm. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about your presentation. What were some of the highlights that you talked about?
So our presentation really just focuses on the common sense of cybersecurity. A lot of the time in this day and age, how we operate, we're quick to click without reading and slowing down and looking for things that don't make sense.
Quick to click. That's
too
good.
quick to click.
Yes.
That's exactly what it comes down to. So we really just focus on how you can slow down and what role the individual user plays in cybersecurity. So you don't have to be an IT person, a member of the IT staff. We also talk about that you can't defer to the IT staff, right? Like, we have an IT guy, he'll take care of it. You play a role in it, right? The biggest security breach in any company starts at the end user level.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so say more about that. So the facility plays a role in it, and the end user plays a role in that. So how does that breach take place? What happens?
Yeah, the way we look at it is we all have responsibility in the scenario, right? And so the facilities have responsibility to have the infrastructure in place, right? We have to have firewalls. We have to have policies is one of the big things, both for all end users, whether they're employees, residents, or whatever the scenario is. And that has to be conveyed clearly to them that you play a role. You have a responsibility, right, to not do things that you shouldn't do on the internet, and to pay attention to what you are doing on the internet. And then the company, the infrastructure, backs that effort up by, we've got things in place. For example, data backup, that we've got it in the cloud so that we create that air gap between our facility and the cloud, so that if we get a ransomware attack here, we have an air gap. It can't get to our data in the cloud.
Okay.
If we keep the data in the cloud safe, then we don't have to pay the Bitcoin ransom. We can just rebuild that device, download the data from the cloud, and we're up and running. So we talk about, what's your backup policies, right, and procedures, and business continuity. And we also focus on making sure that the companies have a disaster recovery plan in place.
Can I ask, I'm just going to ask this question. Are assisted living, senior livings behind in the times with this data, I guess, plan or
I think
cybersecurity in general?
Yeah, I mean, are we behind? Is senior living behind?
I would say, from what I've gathered talking to people here, that they are.
Interesting.
I saw a lot of raised eyebrows while we were talking.
Okay.
Because like we talked before, like a lot of people think that because a facility offers Wi-Fi, that it's just, you just put it out there and everybody's happy. We have to remember that at the end of every one of those Wi-Fi connections is a user, just like you are at home on your machine, just like you are in the office on your machine. The same things can happen here that happen there. So if you have somebody who's not as astute when it comes to computing with a wide open connection to the world through the internet, somebody has to step in and make sure that bad things don't happen.
And really watch out. And so it's a little bit about protecting the residents who are using it and their guests, because I do that. I go to my father's assisted living and I connect and I work, and I am in the tech industry and I know better, and I still do it
Right.
because sometimes it's convenient. So I think those are some things. And I would echo what you just said about the fact that the industry is behind in this. I think that there are several things technology-wise that the industry is behind in. We were on a panel, both Francis and I, at Denver Startup Week with some other assisted living and big box facilities and a couple tech people, and I asked the owner operators and executive directors, do you guys feel like you're 10 years behind, 5 years behind? And they all kind of went, 15 years behind.
Yeah.
It's really an area of opportunity, and I think this is something Francis and I have a lot of passion about. People who are looking at getting into the aging services and looking at all the different ways that they can be in the aging services. It's not just caregiving. No. This is a huge, huge opportunity.
Well,
for
I think
people.
too, look at me. look at you, and obviously you, right?
Yeah,
eventually, we're going to be there. And we've grown up having internet. We've grown up having everything in our hand. Well, when I'm 75 and 80 years old, right, I hope to still have faculties to do that. And I would hope that somebody's looking out for me in that respect.
That makes sense.
That the facility that I'm in has that taken care of.
Right.
That I can do what I need to do and not have to worry about it, because I spent my whole career worrying about it. I'm going to be the one guy who asks them, and they'll probably be confused. But hopefully not, right? Hopefully we can change the standard by then, and that it becomes very commonplace.
I mean, hearing you talk, I just have all these thoughts running through my head, and the big one is, we're moving so much to electronic medical records, MARS, our phones, our handheld devices to enter tasks or data in. What if we're not securing those? Can we have some pretty negative consequences occur from staff using devices?
Cross-contamination, if you will, right?
Okay.
Like we were talking earlier, a caregiver going from one facility to the other, to the other, to the other, and having open connections on each of those Wi-Fi systems. They're in a coffee shop later, and they go on and it connects for some reason, somehow, because maybe they're in the coffee shop right next door to the facility. The other thing that people don't, fully understand in facilities is that your Wi-Fi signal goes as far as it wants to go.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Now you've got potential breach because you've got somebody, an ex-caregiver, employee of the facility who's a little disgruntled, sitting in the parking lot at the middle of the night, knows the password to the Wi-Fi, has plenty of signal strength, knows how to get into the system, knows that it's unsecured, right? Goes in, does damage, drives off into the night, nobody knows what happened the next day. So, the concept of, we just live in an environment, a world now where we all expect Wi-Fi. We expect that, like we expect our phone to ring when it, and that kind of thing. And the facilities have to really start to look at it and decide, how can we not only protect the residents, but protect the facility?
True.
Because you've got HIPAA.
Yep.
You've got all these other things that facility is liable for.
Right.
In the presentation, we talk about PII, personal identifying information, and PCI, if they're doing any kind of transactional credit card transactions, things like that, all come into play in facilities like this. And how they're bound by HIPAA. And I did some reading on that, and wow, that's something else. But
yes, it is.
Yes, it is. That's a scenario, right, where you want to go all in and overboard just to make sure you're covering everything.
Yes.
It sounds like there's a lot that, with the progression of so much electronic data, that we haven't thought about securing that data almost. I mean,
right. And when you transmit that data, you're responsible for it. Right? That's like if you, back in the day when we had paper records, and you were going to send it to another physician's office or something, right? You're responsible until it gets there.
Right.
It's the same thing with electronic records.
Yeah.
And not only that, but storing them as well, right? And that's really the key thing.
Right. So it has to be encrypted at rest and in transit.
Exactly.
And really, you have to have these in place, but so many communities don't know that. And, I'm thinking about, this is something I find myself saying often. We have tools in the corporate world that we use. In the corporate world, you would never have an unsecure Wi-Fi. It just wouldn't happen.
Right.
If an employee leaves, you would change the passwords to the Wi-Fi and all the systems they had access to. You have someone looking out for that. And I believe that the communities that we're talking about, the assisted livings, the SNFs, things like that, they really don't have that IT infrastructure to that level yet, and it's really important that they get there. So what would you say to them? Like, what is the very first thing that they should be looking at?
I think the first thing that they need to look at is internally. They need to look at themselves, their own internal policies, procedures, things like that, if they've even sat down and mapped those out, right? So it starts from within. So they need to get an IT professional to sit down and understand how they're operating, and then have the deep conversation that this is probably not the best way for you to operate. Here is the best way, or a good way for you to operate. And then it kind of grows from there, right? It grows from inside to the outside. So it grows down the hall to the residents, and we have to put something on the residents, right? I mentioned earlier, like whether it's a piece of paper in the resident's packet that says, we're providing this for you, this is the intention of this, we're going to put some responsibility on you to act correctly. Now, to go hand in hand with that, the facility has to have services available for the residents, right? So just as if they click on an email that they suspect, here's the problem. Resident clicks on an email they suspect, they don't have anybody to ask. They don't have anybody, they don't have an IT person in the facility to come down and say, don't click on that, right? So 50-50 chance.
True.
And they click on it, and now they've got a problem. So I think the facility, it all really falls to them, where they have to figure out, okay, if we're going to provide this level of technology, we have to find a way that it is supported. right? Whether that's an internal IT person or an external outsourced IT person, so that we can make sure we're doing what we're doing, because their focus should be care, right? Their focus should be the facility, and they should not try to do IT unless they know IT and are certified in some manner.
Right. And that they have the ability to have that infrastructure and the support on site, right? Or at least a phone call away. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's where I say, given my background in software and in the technology world, I say that's the easiest thing for them to outsource. It's not something they need to have in-house, but it's something that they definitely need to have in place. I'm even sitting here as you're talking, thinking about all the kids, the grandkids who come in.
Yes.
And they have their little mobile devices and they're playing on them, and who knows what they're clicking and
or they
not
hop on
clicking,
grandma's
right?
laptop that's sitting there connected to the facility Wi-Fi. So I really feel the onus falls on the facility to go so far as to the end user's endpoint and say, we're going to provide antivirus for you, right? So that we know that when your grandson gets on it, we've done everything we can to protect really the facility.
That's great.
And the residents.
And it can be as basic, even as a starting point, as change your passwords often.
Absolutely.
So to the Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah. The Wi-Fi can be set up to prompt the user every 30 days and new policies. And I look at it as it's no different than a corporate environment.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think, that mindset is that there's always this stigma within senior living of, are we going to be more hospitality based? Are we going to be more corporate based? Are we going to be more care based? And I think with that hospitality element, it's so much about the service that we'll just give them the Wi-Fi, give them this, give them that. Like, they got to have it. And it's kind of an afterthought of, should we be doing that?
Right.
So when you travel in the corporate world, we travel a lot, and we go to a hotel and we check in and we have the Wi-Fi here. Most business people that I know have a VPN.
Correct.
What's your recommendation for that? Is there a way to bring what we do when we travel to hotels into assisted livings?
Yeah. We talk about that in the presentation as well. Coffee shops, hotels, airports, things like that. Be cognizant of that the person that you're sitting next to in a coffee shop may not be there doing anything other than trying to get onto your machine.
That's a good point.
Right. It looks like they're working, but they're actually waiting for unsuspecting people to sit down and get on.
I liked what you said at the very beginning. Don't be too quick to click.
Right.
So it never hurt anyone to not click for a few minutes while you look at it. And I have fallen prey. I have definitely fallen for it and clicked on something, and I had a weird feeling in my stomach. So what I will say for the women out there, because most of us will have this experience, if you have a weird feeling, don't click it. Just hang tight. Just don't do it. Think about it. Think, why is that? Why do I have this weird feeling? Because there might be something there.
Well, the kind of our tagline is the human side of IT. I'm kind of the anti-IT guy because I love it. I love technology, but I don't necessarily love where we're headed with it. Meaning that we are giving ourselves up too easily, too freely to technology, and we need to take some of that back. I said earlier, it's time to get your brain back.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop relying on auto dial. Stop relying on cache the information in your browsers. Because even though we all love when we hit the bank site and it knows who we are and it logs us in, it gives us that warm fuzzy. It also gives the hackers and so forth the warm fuzzy too, because now they can get to your machine and there you all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be careful with that. We need to take our brains back. We need to take our information back.
Right.
And control it instead of it controlling us.
Yeah, that's good. Take our brains
a couple
back.
of things before we end here is kind of, how did you get into IT? How did you get into almost this healthcare IT aspect?
So the interesting thing is, my background is mechanical plumbing engineering.
Okay.
But when I went to college, it was when CAD, computer-aided drafting, was just starting. And we used to do it on monochromatic monitors.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I remember those.
And it was like, you had to know what you're doing. But so I've witnessed a lot of this technology emerge and that sort of thing. And so I was in engineering. And I became the de facto IT guy in my office who, the server died. What do we do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'll figure it out. So I figured it out. And then ultimately I was presented with an offer to go into IT.
Cool.
The healthcare industry has always interested me in a way because of the things we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I remember when we had a doctor's client and HIPAA was coming on and he was just adamant against it. And I understood why. But I was like, this is the tip of what's coming.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the emergence of wireless. We've seen the emergence of cell right, of what you can do over cell data now, over cell signal now, is nothing. I remember when we had the flip phones and you were texted by just pushing buttons and that kind of thing. Is archaic. So having witnessed all of that, I feel like this company has a better purpose now of just trying to educate people and to try to bring the human side back into IT of let's slow down and not get consumed by the technology that we love and has made life a better place, but then can also arguably have said it's maybe put a damper on things.
I have a love-hate relationship with technology. I love it because I'm not stuck in the office, but I hate it because I feel like I'm always constantly connected.
Yeah.
That's a constant struggle I have is not being connected. It is. And so I understand.
I think you're not alone. I think that's a whole nother podcast that we could talk about.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, if I start talking about it, this will go too long.
And I'm the outlier here. I absolutely love technology.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm a gadget girl. I love it. I love everything it can do.
Yeah, I do too, but in
moderation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's fair. And
just
and
like chocolate,
really,
in moderation.
And
Everything's good, right?
What? I don't even know what you mean by that. Don't you speak such words?
Yeah, right.
So I think that there's opportunity here, really, and that's how
I think we need help.
Yeah,
we need a lot of help.
I think people need to people who are listening are everything from family members to assisted living executive directors,
owners,
and hopefully to the corporate level as well. And so what would you want to say to each of them?
Well, again, I think that everybody, plays a role. Everybody has to play a role in cybersecurity and protecting your own information as well as your loved one's information, And I think that we have a line in the presentation, to be naive is vulnerable, and to be vulnerable is dangerous.
Well said.
Well said, yeah.
So I'd leave you with that, everybody plays a role.
Okay.
And Jack, how do they find you, your company? Tell us, how can they get a hold of you if they want to dive deeper into this?
Yeah, our website is initialit.net. All one word.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
It's the .net that throws people off. But anyway, you can just reach out to us. My email is jsmith@initialit.net.
Perfect.
Or our main number, 303-893-4350.
Yeah, and we'll leave those show notes and comments so that they can easily get those, because like I said, you're doing great work, and I think I can tell you from senior living, I've been doing it 10 years now, it's an afterthought. Cybersecurity right now is an afterthought for a lot of your healthcare, I think healthcare in general even.
And families. We come in and we use it, and we don't even think twice about it. So you're right. It's everybody's responsibility, and this is a huge area of opportunity. So if there are any students out there, any people looking at getting into the aging services, and you have a technology background or interest, this is a fabulous area to get into.
Yes, give us a call.
Give me a call.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
We would love to have an intern. We'd love to have a recent college graduate that has an interest in this, because there's so much we could do.
Yeah.
We can reach out to maybe do some connecting at Metro State and some of the other universities that we're trying to get involved with to help kind of promote just getting into aging services, because God willing, we're all going to get there, but we need to make sure we have people that are in the industry to help us out.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening. The Mavericks want to hear from you. Visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Mavericks of Senior Living or mavericksofseniorliving.com and leave us your comments, questions, and ideas for future podcasts.